One of the big questions is, what is money?
For practical purposes, it exists in a series of heterogeneous databases, very different databases.
Do you believe in crypto?
Digital currency may be an answer, but it is the highly speculative asset.
I do own Bitcoin.
There is no second best.
Welcome to the Crypto Curious podcast. Every Wednesday, we dive into the dynamic world of cryptocurrency. If you're new to crypto, we recommend starting out with our early episodes where we break down the basics and give you a solid foundation to understand the crypto world. And for the Crypto Curious, seasoned addicts, or industry insiders, we're here to help you unpack the latest crypto news. This week on the show, we've got fresh blood on the street after Trump Tarif war threat. We've got Bybit's $1.4 billion hack, the biggest crypto heist ever. And we've got a fun theory here. Is Jack Dorsey the Twitter founder? That's been gaining some steam on the internet. And also stay tuned for some wacky Kayne news. He's back in the news talking about crypto. My name is Craig and I've completely butchered the intro because Tracy is flawed with a migraine. But I'm joined in Sydney with my co-host Blake to bring you this week's news. How are you, Blake?
Pretty good, Craig. How about yourself?
Good, mate.
Another crazy bloody week in crypto.
Look, it's been rough on the portfolio checkers like myself today. The market is bleeding. We'll get right into it, Blake. Bitcoin plunged 5% to $91,000. Ethereum's down 11%. Solana's down 16%. It's a bit of a perfect storm of macro uncertainty, Bybit hack. What's going on?
Yeah, it's really hard to tell what's going on here because there's so much stuff happening at the same time. Some things are affecting the market and other things aren't. But it looks like the new trade wars could be causing this. Trump has come out and said that he'll be doing 25% tariff on both Canada and Mexico because the conditions of their agreement weren't met and the market's freaked out as a result of this. I'm surprised Canada and Mexico haven't done some of those things, like Mexico promised that they'd bring 10,000 people to the border to protect the borders, but it doesn't look like it's happened. So yeah, I'd be surprised if this one actually gets through, but I think the flex of it certainly can spook the market. Yeah,
I think let's rewind a couple of weeks. This is a very similar story when he announced these tariffs a few weeks ago, another similar market crash. Then he came out the next day, he said, look, I'm going to extend it. I'm going to give him a chance to do all these things. It looks like they haven't been met. So he actually has a date now. But it seems that's not the only reason we've had a bit of a dump, but we'll get into the Bybit hack. It just seems like a bit of a perfect storm. We've got the AI sector's also taking a hit, and Nvidia's earnings report came back lower than expected. The Bybit fallout. Where do you think we go from here? Do you think this is a short term, or do you think we might be in for a couple of months of...
Yeah, well, based on our last episode, we were speaking with Trader Dax, Kyle, about the macro, and it's really going to depend on that, what happens in the broader economy, particularly in the US. So who knows what's going to happen from here, but we're a little bit hamstrung, I think. So it might take a little bit to recover from this one anyway, because the market does seem spooked. But yeah, that's all we can do, really.
Yeah, and there's reports that sort of came out just before the show that over $686 million were liquidated in crypto positions just in 24 hours. So it's still a lot of leverage built up in the system. And it's a common thing in bull markets, actually, where we sometimes see pullbacks up to 30 to 50%. I think Solana's now down around 50% from the highs in November. So, I think it's important to note that we're still in the early days of Trump. Like, I think we were freaking out with Dax last week. He's like, why are you freaking out? Bitcoin's near 100K. Trump's just started. So there's a lot of things coming up, obviously, quantitative easing, all the things that we've spoken about in the past. I mean, it's one of those times where it feels ugly, but you don't want to make any rash decisions.
That's right. Yeah, you just got to go with the flow on this one, and we'll just watch and report back on what happens next week, really.
The beauty of dollar cost averaging, Blake.
Exactly. But I think the biggest news of this week is the Bybit hack. Now, this is the largest crypto hack that's ever happened, and everyone was concerned what was going to happen here. It happened on Friday or over the weekend, and the hackers stole $1.4 billion of Ethereum, which is huge. And fortunately, CEO of Bybit came out very quickly and gave confidence to the market and said they're able to cover this from their balance sheet. I think that put everyone at ease. So what happened here and who's behind this one, Craig?
Yeah, so a bit of context around Bybit. Bybit's actually the second largest crypto exchange by volume, absolutely huge Asian market and North American as well. They're sort of been around for a lot longer than people realize. And Ben, who is the founder of Bybit, he was on live stream. He was taking questions. He was just, I think he shared his Whoop sleep score. He got no sleep, but he had no stress either. It's just like, this guy's like low-key Chad vibes. But essentially, there's a lot of token chain analysis investigators. And the one that we've spoken about in the past, Zach XBT, he traced the stolen funds and linked them to a North Korea hacker group called the Lazarus Group.
And we've spoken about these guys before. They did a hack on the Ronin Bridge worth $600 million last year. And they've been responsible for a bunch of other hacks as well, including one for Tether and Horizon Bridge for $100 million. So these guys are making bank.
Yeah, and I believe it was actually human error that made this hack possible. Apparently it was a sort of phishing system and then someone approved an unauthorized transaction. Do you know a bit about?
Yeah, I know a little bit about this. So they had the crypto stored on cold storage, which is best practice. And they received a request for a large withdrawal. And you need 3 people to sign or to confirm this transaction. However, what came up on the sign or the confirmer's screens wasn't what was actually being processed. What was being processed was much larger. So it looks like these hackers had got into the software that they'd use to manage the transfers of crypto in and out, but maybe not necessarily the cold storage device that was holding the assets. And as a result of that, the key team members that did approve this transaction didn't know what they were actually approving until it was too late.
It's an interesting one, right? Because obviously Bybit had this shortfall and they've reported that they've taken loans and grants from their competitors, Binance and OKX and some other competitors in the market, which just shows that crypto, even though it's a competitive industry, these guys are working together. What is also interesting is I've seen is the hackers actually funneling some of the funds through Pump Fund.
And Solana, yeah.
And Solana. So they made a Solana shitcoin called, I don't even know what it's called, and it generated around $26 million in trading volume. So they're trying to sort of get it out that way. But what I've actually seen now is a lot of platforms are blacklisting this address and what other addresses are associated with this address. So this could become a situation where these funds may never leave the blockchain.
Yeah, that's right. They might never end up on a centralized exchange, but anything could happen here. There's all sorts of mechanisms and tools to use to wash the coins, to elude the trackers off the trail.
I had this thought as well. Bybit's obviously, I think it's Chinese.
I think it's registered in Singapore or Hong Kong.
Hong Kong, yeah. So they're an Asian exchange. And I had a thought, if this was Coinbase or if this was Kraken, if this was an American or North American exchange, this could potentially be a big political issue. North Korea, 1.4 billion, the biggest hack in history. I think we're sort of not seeing Trump or anyone talk about it because it doesn't really concern him. But how can North Korea be still pulling off these, allegedly, North Korea pulling off these sort of heights?
It's still the Wild West. At the end of the day, if you're holding crypto yourself and you're storing them yourself, you're the custodian of your own keys and you're subject to, phishing attacks, being hacked. And that's just how it rolls. And unfortunately, there's lots of user error. But there are better tools and systems and processes coming out for people to use in order to keep their crypto safe. But this industry is new. And while these things are still happening, I think that it just creates the opportunity for other entrepreneurs to come out and build better products where this can't happen as easily.
Maybe we'll touch on best practices as well for if you have money in crypto. I've always thought that even having it all in a ledger, or I know that's best practice on paper, but I think maybe some better practices would be just maybe splitting it out, have some here, have some there. Don't have all your eggs in one basket. What would you say is some best practices for people after this news?
I think that's a good way of doing it. And I think there is a debate on whether or not what's safer, storing your own keys on a ledger and they're opening up the potential of user error, or storing on an exchange where opening yourself up to counterparty risk or the exchange being hacked. With the latter example, there's the opportunity that their balance sheet could cover a hack, or insurance could cover the hack. They could pay users back from revenues over time. Alternatively, I think that more crypto has been lost through user error of people storing their own coins than there has been on cryptocurrency exchanges. So I think you have to look at your own skill set and figure out, are you willing to learn how the technology works? Really get in the weeds on how some of the wallets function so that you can protect the assets that you store. And if that's, if you're not technically inclined, then maybe outsourcing that could be a better option for you.
Yeah, for sure. I think people on Twitter, etc., are calling it similar to an FTX or Lunar event, but it is a huge hack. But just remind everyone that the FTX one was $12 billion essentially missing from a balance sheet. So a lot of very different circumstances, this one, and it remains to be seen if they can recover the funds. It's not unknown to happen previously. That has been possible. And they've given out a $140 million reward for anyone that can help in
recovering those funds,
getting these funds back. So this story, I think it's not the end. I think there's probably some more to come out of it. But off the back of that, since the hack was in ETH, Bybit actually forced themselves to buy back the ETH.
Yeah, people were expecting this over the weekend that Ethereum's going to pump. They got to buy back $1.4 billion of Ethereum.
It's still dumped.
And they bought back $700 million of Ethereum over the weekend, which generally trading volumes are lighter on the weekend. And Ethereum's still dumped. All of crypto still dumped, which just goes to show that how strong the macro environment can affect crypto.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Well, just another exchange hack in the news, but let's move on now. A bit of a fun one, someone that's been blowing up in the crypto group chats all week is Jack Dorsey Satoshi. So another week, another theory about the true identity of Bitcoin's mysterious creator, Satoshi Nakamoto. This time, people reckon it could be Jack Dorsey.
So Jack Dorsey is the founder of Twitter. Now he operates Block, which is a payment provider that has the Cash App, which is a large crypto and money transfer app in the US.
Yep, so he's been a long-time Bitcoin advocate, and someone's done a bit of a deep dive, and some of the reasons are pretty compelling. So the first one is that Bitcoin's first ever transaction actually happened on Dorsey's mother's birthday, and the last block was mined by Satoshi on his father's birthday. I'm going to give this one a pass. I think that could be coincidental.
Clutching at straws there. However, Bitcoin's open source code was timestamped exactly at 4 a.m., a time Dorsey once had in his Twitter bio. So I don't know why that was there. And then secondly, one of the Bitcoin's first addresses started with JD2M, which some claim as Jack Dorsey 2 Mint, a nod to his old San Francisco address, his home address. So I think a lot of these things are pretty flimsy, but there's about 20 or 30 of them that come together pointing in Jack's direction. Yeah, what are you thinking about this one, Craig?
Look, I don't like the conspiracy because if it was, it would be so disappointing to realize that 10 years later, the most high profile, 15 years later even, the most high profile person has kept it from everyone for so long. I like to think it's someone we don't know.
Yeah, and Jack Dorsey famously wears a t-shirt in front of the cameras that says Satoshi on it. Is this a little Easter egg that he's putting out there or what?
But there's also a lot of other clues that people are speculating on and thinking it's a bit flimsy, like we just mentioned. Someone hacked Satoshi's emails and it had reference to St. Louis, which is where he's from. There's probably 5 or 6 things that if you fact check about 3 or 4 of them becomes convincing, but no one's actually fact checked any of it. It's just some battler on Twitter. But I guess this brings to the conversation of if it was to come out that he is Satoshi, what do you think happens to the market?
That's really hard to say. I think it'll dump, definitely, because the current thesis is that Hal Finney, who was the founder of Bitcoin, is dead. And if Jack's the founder, it means that the coins are still in play, 1 million Bitcoins.
I reckon we would see, if he came out and actually provided proof and everything, the market realizing there's 1 million Bitcoin that could be sold by someone who is living could, as you said, be a huge dump, potentially. Why don't you jump into the Facebook group, let us know what you think, and we'll cover it off in the next podcast. Let's go for a break now. When we come back, we'll talk about our short, sharp news bites.
But before we do that, we just want to give a shout out to the Stand with Crypto event that's happening in Perth next month. We are doing an event with Stand with Crypto and some of the Coinbase crew there to bring a bit of attention to the upcoming election and those candidates that are crypto friendly. So if you're based in Western Australia and want to come along, we'll leave the invite in the show notes. Come along and say hi.
Here's Steve Smith buying a coffee. He's actually also investing in crypto at the same time, using Bamboo. You take care of drinking coffee with your mates, we'll take care of investing the small change. Start investing your change today with Bamboo.
Okay, now we're back with short, sharp news bites. I'm going to kick things off. Kanye is eyeing a meme coin launch. So he's on Twitter. He's tweeting at Binance's CZ and Justin Sun. He's saying, what is Binance? What is Tron? Now, there's a lot of speculation that he's actually sold his account to known crypto scammers. And, we covered this last week around how the grift is just getting so real right now. Every week there seems to be a new grift. Polymarket has created a market for if Kanye will launch a meme coin. They're giving it a 50% chance. He has leaked screenshots that we've covered in the past that have said a screenshot of someone messaging him and saying, just say you got hacked and we'll pay you $1 million. I think, this is one of those ones that we really need to be careful with. I think even myself, Tracy's got here, stay away from this one. Yes, that includes you, Craig. I think this one is going to be very bad for the market, but regardless of that, it might not happen.
Nah, that's right. But I think everyone's a little bit fed up with these celebrity meme coins. And I suspect that even if it does go live, we're not getting as much traction as some of the previous ones. All right, next up, Bitcoin's institutional adoption surged in Q4 last year with 38 billion in total inflows, net inflows. So this is incredible, mainly going into BlackRock's ETF, and it has over 1,100 institutional holders. And this just shows that this is the most successful ETF launch ever and continues to gain momentum.
Let's see how that goes in later this year when obviously policy starts to change. I got a cool one now. So Kato AI launched their Kato token amid AI crypto boom. Do you know what Kato is?
No, I don't actually.
So Kato is an AI powered search platform. Now, the biggest issue with crypto projects is they can't actually see who's talking about them. How do you reward people who are really big fans of your product? Now, obviously, there's, you can, in Web 2 world, you can use Facebook, create Facebook groups, and that's sort of an old way of thinking about it. But what Kato does is it actually scans the whole of Twitter and tells you, oh, Blake, you talk a lot about Ethereum. You must be an Ethereum maxi. Let's target him with some Ethereum ads. If you're an Ethereum project, you might say, Blake, keep talking about us and we'll give you some rewards.
It's like an AI marketing platform.
AI marketing platform, yes. So what was happening was influencers that were signed up to Kato were earning these things called yaps. So if you spoke about a project or about Kato enough, you earned a yap. Now they did an airdrop where if you had yaps, you got free Kato token. So I actually got 30 Kato, which is $35, but I don't have enough gas to claim it. But it's a very interesting platform because they actually charge crypto projects around 100 grand to get access to this. So it's a very interesting trend on how AI is actually helping inform businesses and particularly marketers to see how's your mind share compared to your competitors.
And this was dubbed Yap to Earn. So how many times do we have to mention Kato to get an airdrop here, Craig?
Well, I must say I was shit posting for around 3 weeks and I earned 0 yaps. So very bad, but I ended up getting some free tokens anyways.
So next up, Radium, which is the main automated market maker on the Solana ecosystem for Pump Fund, has plunged 22% over the last few days after Pump Fund is developing its own automated market maker. Now, Radium, we mentioned, generated $400 million in revenue in January.
They want a piece of that.
Yeah. And obviously now Pump Fund said, hey, you're not coming into our ecosystem and our distribution platform and earning all this money. We want to take that money for ourselves. And I think it's a fair call.
It never made sense, man. Just to remind everyone, when you launch a Pump Fund coin and you reach a certain amount of volume, you actually graduate to Radium. So you're actually getting taken off the Pump Fund platform to go to traders and market makers on Radium. Now, Pump Fund are obviously a huge acquisition channel for Solana meme coins. It's the only place you can launch a meme coin. But they're kind of just sending people off to Radium. So Radium, we'll talk about those revenue numbers. That it only takes so long before someone wants a piece of that.
Yeah, it could be too little too late here. Obviously, they're going to do well.
They're going to do well, yeah. We're seeing the end of that.
Yeah, the top could be in on this one, ladies and gents.
Sure. Now I'm going to finish things off with a topic we spoke about a few years ago. It's all coming to surface. Now the SEC's crypto crackdown reverses as a bunch of investigations get dropped. Now, if you were a loyal Crypto Curious listener in the bear market in 2022, you might have heard us talk about SEC and their lawsuits against OpenSea, Robinhood, Coinbase, OKX. It seems like every man and their dog was getting a lawsuit from the SEC. But now a lot of them have been dropped. Again, another proof of the change of administration. Brian Armstrong's come out and says it's proof that the SEC overstepped its authority. So huge vibe shift over there. But the question remains, this is hopefully going to lead to longer term clarity.
And more tokens.
And more
Good thing or bad thing?
And more token, which is, up in the air if it's a good thing or a bad thing. But regardless, it's good that this stuff isn't in the news cycle anymore because I was getting sick of covering.
Yeah, exactly right.
Lawsuits. Now, we'll wrap things up there. Now, this week, we're actually dropping a bonus episode. It's a little bit more technical. We're diving deep with Dax Kyle Stoggle from Market Mastery. Now, I spoke to him last year at the crypto conference and got very good feedback, but be prepared. You should probably bring a notepad, take some notes. Even me and Blake were a bit out of our depth here. He gave us a very good perspective on how to treat macro markets as well as crypto. Like, what does macro mean for crypto? And I think it's really good because we're in the weeds, obviously, every week. So his sort of zoomed out lens is very good. So give that a listen. Let us know what you think. Something a little bit different. And we'll be dropping some more bonus episodes over the next few weeks.
That's right. So thanks for diving into the crypto world with us today. If you enjoyed, bring along a friend next time. Share it with them where we break down the weekly news. Stay curious, stay connected. You can do this by joining the Crypto Curious Facebook group, our Instagram page. We have a weekly newsletter that you can subscribe to. And if you're looking at DCA into the crypto market, you can use the code CURIOUS on the Bamboo app. The link is in the show notes. See you next week, ladies and gents.
See you guys.